Good morning, boys and girls. Happy Wednesday. Well, what are we going to learn today in measurement part 2? Let's recap. We have learned the thermometer. We've learned about how the thermometer measures weather and it determines whether a temperature is high or low. We also have learned the calendar. This Monday we learned the calendar, and now we're moving to time, which is the clock. Now, boys and girls, you've learned the clock already in second grade and maybe even a little bit in first. So we're kind of refreshing ourselves with the clock and just learning it in a little more detail. What is the easiest way to think of clock? Here's my circle, boys and girls. I'm sure you're laughing as you look at this. Not the perfect circle, but you know, Mrs. Cobo's drawings are not going to be very good. So bear with me. Think of the clock as, think of fractions. When you think of a clock, think of fractions. So here you have a circle, and you know how when we learn fractions, we can divide a circle in even sections. So if you think of this as a whole, remember we learned that in fractions, then who can tell me the fraction of each of these pieces? Yes, I hear you guys saying 1/4, and you are correct. So each of these is 1/4. Why? Because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 parts of this circle, and this is 1 out of 4. And this one is another 1 out of 4 and 1 out of 4 and another 1 out of 4. So each of these is a quarter. That's how we call this. We say 1/4. We can say 1/4. So when you think of the clock, you're going to be seeing in a minute, you're going to see, I'll just draw these lines here. And let me just put just the numbers that refer to the quarters. Okay, this would be a 9, and let me move our clock a little bit. And this would be a 6, all right? So, you get the idea now. When you have this amount of the clock, you've gone quarter of an hour. Here would be another quarter of an hour. So these 2 quarters would equal what? A half, that's right, because this whole thing here, that's a half of the clock. See, this is 1/2 and this is the other half. So that's why you have half an hour. So we have quarter hours, another quarter hour, and 2 of these equals a half. Another quarter hour and another quarter hour, and then we finish the clock. All right, so keep those fractions in mind when we use quarters. So in terms of time, now 2 things that you've already learned, boys and girls. The little hand and the big hand. All right, so here we are. Here's our Judy clock. And notice we have a little hand and we have the big hand. The little hand always points to the hour, and the big hand we use for the minutes. So, and I know you brought with you your 2 clocks that I sent you, because we're going to be putting a time on this clock, and then we're also going to be doing those 2 clocks. So here we go now. Today we're going to work on half hours and quarters. Well, let's begin with the o'clock. See 12? Let's put the clock here. All right, let's just do this. All right. Okay, and you're looking here at the Judy clock. You might be wondering, what is that 60? Well, every hour there are 60 seconds in every minute, and there's 60 minutes in 1 hour. So each hour has 60 minutes. And so that's why when you go from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, you're going a whole 60 minutes around. So a whole 60 minutes. But if I go from 2 o'clock to 2:30, then I've only done 30 minutes. See that? 30 is half of 60. All right, so let's go back again. Let's start here at 1 o'clock. Let's just put our clock here at 1. Okay, there we have 1 o'clock. Now, if I do this, what's happened? See, I went from here to here. What's the fraction? A quarter. So I've done a quarter of an hour. Here we go again. From 1 o'clock to where the 3 is with my minute hand, I've done a quarter of an hour. And now I move down to here, and now what did I do? I moved down to here. I did another quarter hour, and now I have a whole half. I've done half of my circle, half of the clock. So we did 1 o'clock, a quarter after, and another quarter will be half past. So see, what time is that? 1:30. Because the little hand is in between the 1 and the 2. Because it's not 2 o'clock and it's not 1 o'clock, it's in between. So it's 1:30. Now if I keep going for another quarter, for one more quarter, I will land here. So what would this be? This will be 45 minutes. Another quarter, because it's a quarter is 15 minutes. See, 5, 10, 15, and another 5, 10, 15, and another 5, let me use this, okay, 5, 10, 15. So now we're doing another quarter hour, and another 5, 10, 15, another quarter hour. So these are just quarters and half. Just know that, because we know that the clock goes by 5, so our 5 times tables helps us learn the clock. But what I just want you to do now is think of quarters and half hours, because many people will say, what time is it? And they'll say, oh, it's 1:15. Or they'll say it's a quarter after 1. If you hear somebody say it's a quarter after 1, it's because they're dividing the clock into 4 sections, quarter. So a quarter and a quarter is a half, and another quarter would be 45, and then 60 minutes, the whole hour. Now, let's look at this clock here, which you already have. Now, notice that clock has the long hand on a particular minute. All right, so hang on to that for a minute, because those are the individual minutes that we're not doing quite yet. And let's look at the bottom clock. They want you to draw the hands of the clock to 2:45. So let's draw the hands of the clock to 2:45. Where would you put the little hand and where would you put the big hand? Well, remember, the big hand are the minutes. So if the clock goes by 5s, which we have already said it does, then we begin here. Here's the old clock. We always begin at the top, at the 12. And then we start counting by 5s. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. So this is the 45 mark. So if they're asking you for 2:45, you know that you're going to end up here at some point. Now, 2 is the hour. So where do we put our little hand? We can't really put it on the 2. You know why? Because it's 2:45. It's almost 3, so we're going to put our little hand somewhere close to the 3, but not at 3. And where do we put the long hand? At the 45, which we already... All right, so just make sure that this is a shorter hand than that one. All right, when you do it, and you can make the circle a little better, that would be 2:45. And school ends at 2:30, so 2:30, 2:35, 40, 45. Don't worry about this one yet, because I sent you 2 clocks, so we're going to work on that one later on when we do the minutes. Now let's look at this clock. Now what I would like you to do is to, let's see, draw the hands for 4:30. See if you can draw the hands on your big clock for 4:30. All right, 4:30, remember, 4:30 is half of your hour. So it's going to land, the long hand is going to land here, so 4:30. That means it's not 4 and it's not 5, it's in between. So the little hand should be somewhere in between 4 and 5, because it's exactly 4:30. And then the big hand should land right here. And so that is 4:30. So let's count before we're going to do a few on the book. Let's just take a minute now and let's just go through the 5 times tables, which is how we use the clock. Let's go through first. The clock is divided as a circle into 4 parts. 1 quarter, and another quarter is a half hour, and another quarter would be 45 minutes, and another quarter would be the whole amount, which is 60. So a quarter, a quarter, a quarter, and a quarter. And what's half of the clock? Right there, half. Half of the clock is 30. Whatever it is, 2:30, 3:30, 4:30. Now, what about the in-betweens? That's when we start counting by 5s. So if we are here, let's say, just look at the long hand, and we begin. 5. We never start counting 5 here. We go to the next number. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, and back up to 60. So we count by 5s. And the little palitos in the middle are counted by 1s. And we're going to do those later on. Right now we're just going to practice the 5s, quarters, and half hours. So keeping that in mind, let's look at number 1. Number 1 says, well, we're skipping number 1, that's right. We're going to start with 7. We're going to skip 1 through 6 and let's go to 7. 7 just has the clock. Write the time in standard form. So let's see what we have. We have the little hand, and this clock that I see here is just about there, and the long hand is here. So think, boys and girls, look at this. About what time, or exactly what time, would this be? Now be careful, because if you said 10:45 because you saw that the little hand is on the 10, that would be incorrect. Because for it to be 10 o'clock, the big hand has to be up here. And it's not up here, but it's close, very close. So it's going to look almost like it is, but it really isn't. So it's really not 10:45, because that would mean it's almost 11. So what would it be then? 9:45. This is 9:45, because when I get up to here, guess what? That's 10 o'clock. But if you say 10:45, that means that it's going to be close to 11. Then it would look like this. See? If it was 10:45, it would be this. That's a common mistake, so don't worry if you thought that. But when it's on the 10, you have to look at this long hand. If it's almost here, then it's going to be 9:45. So number 7, 9:45. All right, let's do one more together. Let's look at number 8. Number 8. All right, we have, okay, this is what we have. So think, where is the little hand? It's in between the 6 and the 7. So it's going to be 6 something. Now look at the minute hand. Where is it? Look what we said in the middle. We have a half. So what is it? If you said 6:30, you're correct. Why 6:30? Again, we start counting by 5s. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So it's 6:30. It's in between the 6 and the 7. All right, boys and girls, so we're going to work with that. Some of you, I know you know time very well. You learned it very well. Others of us have to refresh our memory on time. So we're going to finish from 7 down to, let's see, wait, 2. Hold on, boys and girls. Let me just make sure we're, 27. We're going to do from 7 up to 22. So we have the 2 different types of clocks. And all I want you to do is tell me the time in one way. Whatever time it is, numbers 15 to 18, they ask you to draw the time. So they want you to draw a clock similar to this. Doesn't have to be perfect, and draw the hour hand and the minute hand. And then don't worry about this, boys and girls. We're going to get to the minute. I know that some of you know the time. You know what? If you do know it and you want to write it down, go ahead. Glue these in your notebook so that we can use these. We can use that one again next time. All right, boys and girls. I hope that you're beginning to understand, and I will see you in our next session of time.